Start yet. Welcome back to this month's episode of The Skin Check. The Skin Check with Jen is a monthly segment hosted by me, Jenn SCHULTZ, as an opportunity for low ultraviolet LUV ambassadors and other skin cancer advocates to have a platform to share their story, offer advice, and show support for others. So I am super excited to introduce you to Katie Ostrovsky, known to many also as My Melanoma World on Instagram. She's also the founder of the Stop Melanoma movement. And Katie was actually the first ambassador for Low Ultraviolet, so helping really grow and support the brand before they actually even launched their first project and clothing items. So that is super cool, which is one of the big reasons we wanted to make sure we had Katie on very early. She's also a stage 4 metastatic melanoma survivor. Katie hit a big milestone back in January with 9 years cancer-free. She's a cancer advocate with a Stay Shady motto, a melanoma awareness blogger at stayshady.org. Katie's also a wife, a mom, an amazing friend, and then Katie, you're also one of my very favorite people. So I am so excited to have Katie talk to you more about her story today. I'm honored to give her a space to share more of her story. She's given so many melanoma patients, survivors, and thrivers a voice, and so today we get to offer that back to her. So Katie, I'm super excited for you to introduce yourself and tell us more about yourself in your own words.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to do this. I have love since they were a baby, and they just posted one photo that was so nostalgic and beautiful, and I was like, oh my gosh, who are these people? I need to be involved. I need to know. So I've just kind of felt like they helped me as well in a lot of ways. So my name obviously is Katie. I have dealt with stage 4 melanoma probably like 2.5 years into my story. If we backtrack to when I was 25 years old, I had a dark reddish brown mole on the underarm of my forearm on my left arm. It started off very weird. People were like, on your arm, you have like chocolate on your arm, wipe it off. And I was like, wait, what? And soon enough, in time, it started to become very like a vein kind of thing where I was like, okay, this thing, I used to put band-aids on it, and I needed to get to the dermatologist and figure out what was going on. And when I got there, they were very quick to remove it. And they handed me a pamphlet, and they were like, this could be melanoma. I'd like you to read up on it. We'll get you the results within 2 weeks. It took 4 weeks. They actually sent it out to DC for a second opinion. And when I got that phone call, I was just doing homework because I was trying to go to school to be a nurse at the time. And it was like, what the heck is melanoma? So it took me a lot of time to figure out what exactly I was getting into. And from there,
4 weeks is also an incredibly long time to wait for results.
incredibly long time. And it was very difficult to the point where I just kind of was like, oh, well, cancer, sure, but that's not me, right? Because we already took it off, so we're fine. I was very naive to the fact of what melanoma truly is and what the vast velocity of what melanoma really is. And so when I was just like this baby mom trying to just, start a life and a, brand new marriage, and so things were just so new for me. But when those results came back and they said like, you're stage 2A melanoma, I immediately Googled things and trying to figure out what exactly melanoma was and what stage 2 means. And Mr. Dr. Google is not the way to go. I don't encourage people to get on Google and figure out what's going on with their diagnosis. Definitely go to websites that know what they're doing, skincancer.org, and the many others out there. And so when that came back, it was like I needed a wide local excision. It was very quick from there. They got me in probably like 2 weeks later, and it was my very first surgery going under. So I was super duper nervous. And it was like very quick, in and out. And they were like, okay, you came back cancer free. Go back to your dermatologist and keep up with skin checks. And I was very, very on with that. I never skipped one. It was every 3 months, and I had little ones taken off here and there, but I was good for 2 years. And then I got pregnant with my second daughter in 2008. And within 2 weeks of that, I had a golf ball size lump in my left armpit, which was the same arm of my original melanoma. And I still didn't think it was melanoma because they told me I was cancer free. So, like, I thought it's a clogged milk duct. It's got to be. I was breastfeeding, but maybe it's breast cancer. Oh my God, what is going on with me? So, we went to a breast clinic and she did a biopsy. And of course, it was melanoma. And from there was stage 3C. It was pretty deep, huge, huge ball. I could literally grab it and pull it and move it around. It was like large, very uncomfortable. And from there, things spiraled. It was like, you know, moving from one thing to another, trying to find clinical trials. And back then, there was no immunotherapy, there was very little treatment options. So I was petrified. I went to 7 different clinics trying to find options, and they always said, "Oh, you need to do interferon or IL-2. You'll be in the hospital for weeks." Like, and I just had a baby, and I had a 5-year-old at home. Like, I did not accept the fact that I was going to be stuck in a hospital bed for months at a time. And my survival rate was like less than 5% chance. So I was petrified. So we fought and fought and fought. And the story, 14 surgeries later, 6 immunotherapies later, I traveled back and forth to California, like tons of radiation. It went to my brain, my lungs, my uterus. It has been everywhere. I had over like 100 tumors covering me. And then we did target now testing and found the therapy that was going to save my life, and it did. And here I am advocating and starting what I hope to be a future in melanoma.
Yeah, and I mean, just the fact that you're even here today to have this conversation is nothing short of incredible, because if you don't know a lot about melanoma or the history, like you said, there weren't treatment options back
Mm-mm.
then. And anything, I mean, even stage 2, the survival rate was super low.
Mm-hmm.
So anything stage 3 or 4 was just,
You didn't
you're one
survive.
of you're one
Yeah.
of a very small number of people that have hit like a 9-year cancer free mark, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we're so grateful to have you here for so many reasons.
Thank
You're an
you.
incredible mom, but you've also just, one of the big things that you did for me was helping me find my voice and letting me know that my story was important. And you've helped so many other people do the same thing through sharing your story and through your Instagram, both Instagram pages, your My Melanoma World, where you share more of your personal journey, and then also Stop Melanoma Movement, where you've really built a community of melanoma patients, survivors, thrivers of all stages, and really showcasing that all the people, all the caregivers, survivors, networks, all of it at every stage. And whether you're just finding out you're diagnosed or you're on the other side and, celebrating cancer-free anniversaries and things like that, those are important. I know one thing that you mentioned that I'm super excited about is that you're working to become a melanoma educator and get that
Mm-hmm.
certification, and really getting more and more involved in cancer advocacy. How has cancer advocacy helped you? You've helped so many people, but what has it done personally to help you?
Um, Being an advocate has literally changed my life. Um, any story, it's gonna make me cry. Any story I share, any person that is honored enough to give me that and their precious moment of battling cancer, whether it is very brand new or in a very scary stage 4. I feel like, they don't have to do that, but they're trusting me with their story, and it makes me feel very honored. Um, I share stories on my cancer page, but the Stop Melanoma movement page has really just changed me to feel not only blessed to be here, but to be able to help them. There are people that have come on there who aren't ready to share their story, but in time, they've seen like what that page does for other people and the connections they've made and the friendships that they've built and just the support. And they come back to me and they're like, I've watched your cancer page and you've inspired me, and I've followed this melanoma movement page and I'm ready. And when people do that, it feels like not only have I helped them just find a voice, but just giving them like the space to feel connected and loved and cared for and not alone. Because I was truly alone when I did my story. Like there was no social media to help me. So I didn't want to cry with this. But,
No,
you
it's
know,
okay.
I feel like they've given me a voice as well. Any story, like for example, you, Jen, like when you told me like how nervous you were, and I just said like, no matter what, you matter, because that is what people need to hear in every stage. Cancer's terrifying. So advocating gives me also time to recognize my story because I didn't process it the way I should have back then. I was just trying to survive. And so now I feel like being an advocate is giving me time to heal, time to recognize my story and how it how it has changed me today in being a mom, being a friend, and a daughter, a wife. So being an advocate is probably the number one thing that I want right now. It is my main focus, and I put so much time into it. I don't think people really realize how much time I put into it. And my family's always like, Mom, like, get off the internet. You're always doing something. Put your phone down. But it is so important to me. I'm very proud of it. And I'm proud of the people that are a part of my life too and my story.
Yeah, for a lot of us who have also felt alone, I think when you're diagnosed, it's very easy to feel alone at the beginning. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that, you know, a lot of us know somebody who has been touched by some form of cancer, but
Mm-hmm.
it's very rare to organically know other melanoma survivors.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know any in person until like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Or locally, I should say, until about a year ago. And so everyone that I met was really through social media and through Stop Melanoma movement. You've created a safe space for people to have hope, but then also kind
Mm-hmm.
of dip their toe into having a space to feel like their story needs to be heard and they
Mm-hmm.
can slowly start to share it, but it's a safe space to do so among others in the community and not feel alone. And that's sometimes all we need to take that first step into doing what feels right for us. Everyone's journey into whatever form they want to do with sharing is going to look different. Some people may never get there, and that's okay.
Right.
Just not feeling alone is enough, and feeling like hope and safe. Um, but it really gives people a space to figure out what's right for them and what space.
Yeah, I feel also that like a lot of people watch from a distance that they may just be following and that's all they need. They don't need to necessarily share their story. They may not ever get there, but just having a place where they can just search melanoma and hopefully that page comes up and they can just go, oh, wow, like there's so many other people here doing this with me. And that is so comforting. And now, like some of my very best friends are people online, people I've never really met, but I talk to every single day who support me, love me, encourage me, and really push me to continue with this advocating. It is just so precious to me. Like you, for example, you're like one of my very best friends. And, we met what, 2 years ago now, I think. And I've met you, come to Arizona and we met, and it was like just so precious and a beautiful time where we were just able to like sit and talk and hang out and, with thee there as well. Like, I just feel lucky enough to have people who understand me, and same for you. I think all of us can say that. We just want to feel understood and not alone. And that right there can make you get through so much more. And you need that. People don't realize it until it's there and you're like, "Oh my God, I needed this." And so with that page, especially, I feel like that gives people that comfort. And when I created it, it was just like, and I think it was like 2020, I just made that first cover of myself, and it just said "Stop Melanoma." And I was like, who wants to join in, for May, for Melanoma Awareness Month? Anybody want to do it? And I had like 15 people that were doing it. And I put it on my Melanoma World page. And then I was like, God, wouldn't this be cool if it was like an actual page where people were telling their story? And I just created this random, profile information and created the page the end of May, and I think 2020 is maybe, yeah, it was like 2020. And I started putting the people, I asked them and said, "Hey, I want to create this page. Would you be willing to put your profile information on it?" And they were like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we're totally in." And I think we had 15 people to start. And I just kind of started sharing it and, looking for other melanoma people online that I knew through my cancer page. And it just started growing. And it's now become, I think there's like 200 people on there now, which is scary but good. It's got like a double-edged sword to look at. It's
Mm-hmm.
intimidating because there's so many faces and it could scare people, and I get that. But it also could be very empowering and uplifting and something that you want to be a part of, because it's like, that's you. You're there. You might not be stage 4, but you could be stage 2, but like you understand stage 4 people. So it's really like a place to just feel united.
Yeah, whether you're stage 1 or stage 4 or even stage 0, melanoma in situ, there's so many of the feelings and emotions that
Mm-hmm.
overlap, especially just at any stage to hear those words, "I have cancer." And I think it's really hard to put into words how meaningful and impactful those connections really are, and like what a
Yeah,
gift they are. And
great.
just even how you were talking. So we knew each other through, oh, I remember when you sent me the Stop Melanoma movement, like invite if you want to share your story. And that was very shortly after I started following your My Melanoma World page. And we had really started talking. And I think that was really when we started to build a friendship. And then, like a year later, we got to meet in person. And I so
Mm-hmm.
vividly remember you pulling into the parking lot, and I recognized you immediately. And now I'm probably going to cry, but because I did that day, and I can still, it was almost exactly a year later,
Yeah.
now that I can still feel those emotions. And I was standing there
Mm-hmm.
with my mom, and I saw you, and I was so excited. But then you
Same.
got out of your car and you were walking toward me, and I looked at my mom and I was like, "I'm going to cry." And
I
like we both,
know.
and I gave you a hug, and it's just like
So
to be
cute.
able to just put into what, like, there really aren't words to
Yeah.
explain kind of how that is. But I think all of it is very emotional. So sharing your diagnosis, going through treatment, and meeting others going through it, all of it can be really emotional. And then we have skin checks, and melanoma awareness a month is it's really empowering, but that's
Mm-hmm.
also can be really heavy and emotional. And then we have, scans and cancer anniversaries. So how do you make sure that you are taking care of yourself and managing your own energy and emotions with all of that too, while still being there for all these other people?
It's a very heavy plate to carry. Um, it's very difficult. I'm not gonna lie, like sometimes I feel like I shouldn't be doing it because it does really affect me emotionally. Um, I get really close with people. And for example, Amanda, I when I found out, it was like it just gutted me because there are just so many other faces too where I pictured it when was told, and it does hurt me a lot. And it hurts a lot of us, we are so close. I feel like this family of people. And when you lose somebody, I've I go through like a depression. Like I lost, you know, a family member. And I usually try really hard not to go in a cave and like single myself out, but it's really difficult. I try to manage my insomnia because after like every time after May, all of June, I have like the worst insomnia because my stress levels are so high, talking about cancer all the time, interviewing people, sharing stories. Like it hits me a lot in the month of June and I struggle. So, how do I keep myself mentally stable? I don't really have an answer to that. I just try to take each day at a time. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'll usually take a break from the internet, find my peace again with my family, spend very close. We're very close, the four of us. And so we usually know when the other one's struggling without even saying it. So we'll, do close family time, or uh, I'll go and talk to my sister. Both of them are like my best friends. So I'll tell them kind of what's going on. And so it's very difficult. It's not easy. Mental health is something I wish I had a better answer to. I wish I had a way to manage the stress of cancer, but I don't. Because at the end of the day, I may be a survivor and I may be somebody's hope to get here one day, but I'm still very much a mess. I don't have it all together. It may look like it from a distance or online, but that's just so far from the case. I really struggle with like the loss of people and the friends that we meet. So it's really hard. It's a very hard topic. And I think I wish we talked about it more.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's part of why I wanted to bring it up is you and I have had many conversations about how hard it is, and I'm gonna cry too, but like we make these amazing connections and they can be very healing and helpful to us, but healing is never linear and mental health is hard in the best of situations, just with the ups and downs of life. And when you're dealing with, a cancer community and then melanoma, especially, we've made such a big strides in the last, 10 years, but there's still so far to go as far as developing treatments and better treatments and ones that are, really helpful for melanoma specifically. And so we develop these really beautiful friendships, but anytime that you do that, there's a risk that these people that you may never even meet in real life become like your best friends and your family, but we never know how long we're going to be lucky enough to have them.
Hmm.
And it's always worth it, but it's really hard when it doesn't work. And I think that when have been in the situation where it's the same disease, it's extra heavy because there's a lot of the questions like it could have been me, or why not me, or why them, and all of those things. And like there aren't answers, and even if there were answers, there's no good answers and stuff. But
I carry like survivor's guilt, like you would not believe. I And it's something that I feel like a lot of people either don't believe is true or we just don't talk about it enough. And it's really difficult a lot, and it's just I feel I'm trying to be with like my cancer stuff and me personally. I try to be so open and honest on my difficult days when I'm really struggling because I may be a 9-year survivor, but I want people to understand I don't have it all together. I still have a lot to heal from and a lot of PTSD and stress and anxiety, and my body is wrecked from all I've been through. So I am still fighting a lot of demons, and I'm trying, like a podcast like this, for example, it's super great to have to be able to express to people that the stuff that I'm doing is to make people and their mental health and feel empowered and feel strong. And so it all ties back to the very beginning of why I'm doing this and the mental health and feeling strong and sharing your story and connecting with people who understand you. It all comes full circle. We all come back to each other and go, that person helped me so much in that way. Maybe they didn't make it, but Amanda personally helped me in so many ways. And Chantel and all the many faces we have lost, they have given me a lot to keep going for, and I've learned a lot from them. So it's, yeah, it does. It comes full circle, and you learn from each other and go, okay, we got to keep going. We're doing it for them. We're doing it for myself. We're doing it for family, friends, and you just press on no matter how deep it hurts or uh, hits you. You just, as we all know, even with a diagnosis, you just keep going no matter what.
And it's important to have the hard conversations too, and to make sure that we are sharing. People will say, "You're such an inspiration, you give me hope," but it's still okay to say, "I'm having a really tough day," or "I have, today my pain is at like a 12 out of 10,"
Mm-hmm.
because I think if all we're ever sharing is the positive, and then that can also have the effect of people are watching, they're like, well, why are they so strong and I don't feel that way? Or how come they never have bad days? It's important for people to see the other side too, because I think
Yeah.
sharing the hard and the struggles can be just just as helpful and inspirational as sharing the good and the hope.
Yeah, and I really tried to share the ugly a lot. And I don't, and it's not to like scare people or make them feel like that's going to be them. That's why stories are so important, because it doesn't mean you're going to be stage 4, and it doesn't mean you will pass away from this, but it also means that you need to be aware of what could happen and how you could possibly prevent it. And so, like, sun safety and SPF are so vital to not only skin cancer patients, but every single person out there. And I think that's such a stigma behind sun safety, is that it only matters to us, but that's completely wrong. Every single person should be wearing UPF clothing, sun hats, SPF every single day. If they're out in the sun for an extended period of time, I mean, I'm wearing a UPF shirt now. It's lightweight, it's comfortable, I feel good in it, and I live in a very hot, sunny state. So I am like very cautious of it. But people need to realize there is UPF clothing out there that makes you feel good, makes you feel beautiful. And I think that's what Low Ultraviolet has done, is really made a clothing line that makes us feel beautiful, that we can wear. And it also is a story. Hey, where'd you get that hat? Oh, well, let me tell you about this hat. And this is where it came from. And this is why I wear it. So it's also like an opportunity to share more about skin cancer. So UPF clothing is, I hate that it's just like, oh, well, only they need it. Everybody should be wearing it. And so back to like the beginning is, had I known then that I needed sunscreen, that I needed to wear UPF clothing, oh man, who knows where I would be today? I'd be a nurse. I'd be like living the dream, traveling, probably doing so much more with my life, but that's not me today. So now I have to take the life that I've been given and use it for the positive and find a way to share everything I've been through so I can save somebody else from my hurt and, skin cancer in general. And if one person listens, I've done my job. If I can get 10,000 more, great. I'm all for it. And I'd love to continue on and be a speaker on some sort of platform and tell my story and get sunscreen stations in every park if I could. But it's like one step at a time.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we go through these really hard things and it changes the plan that we had for ourselves, but it
Yeah,
ends up leading us to this really big, powerful, impactful purpose. And
yeah.
you mentioned, low ultraviolet has made clothing more, UPF clothing is more, it makes you feel good and it's more accessible and that type of thing. And they're trying to help that conversation of protecting your skin is not just for those of us who have been touched by skin cancer, but for everybody. And
Hmm.
that's another thing that you touched on, sun stations as well. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because that's really the last thing that I wanted to bring up here. But making it accessible for everyone, sunscreen especially,
Yeah.
is one of those things that we need to make it not just accessible, but readily available. And that was something back in 2018 you were already worked with your city, you were on the news and you were going to get sunscreen stations in your
Hmm.
city. And in 2020 a lot of things changed and budgets changed, and I mean the world really changed.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a setback, but something really big has happened for you, where you're going to be able to really help create an impact, and I want you to be able to share that news.
Well, I have worked on and off and spoken on and off with different, organizations. And I got an email actually like a couple days ago, um, just mentioning like sunscreen stations and, they knew kind of about how important that was to me. And so I got an email saying, hey, they're not having success in this city, but they do want to try another city in Arizona. Would you like to be a part of the board with Impact Melanoma? And I was like, oh, type. I couldn't type fast enough, and just said, yeah. What can I do to help? Of course, it's something that I really am passionate about. And before COVID hit, I was interviewed by the city that I live in, and went on the news, and they were gonna, I was gonna meet with the mayor, and we were gonna do the whole thing. It was like going forward, but of course, COVID changed a lot of that, and it definitely got put way, way, way back, which I respect and understand. So I'm hoping that working with them, I can possibly bring back and reach out with that contact prior to COVID, and hopefully we could intertwine with the mayor again and maybe come full circle and possibly get some of these implied in Arizona somewhere. So who knows what kind of future that will be. I'm really anxious and excited to just attempt to have one of them in the city would be incredible. So hopefully we can get something going.
Yeah, I can't even imagine it. Like you said, it'd be really coming back full circle, but
Mm,
I think it's also a testament to really all of the work that you have been doing in building this community and getting your name out there and becoming more and more of an advocate, not just for yourself, but for your community, both online and in your physical community where you live, and just really not just creating awareness, but really prevention. That's what the sunscreen
yeah.
stations and the UPF clothing can do, is offer the prevention. And it's not a coincidence that you're the one that they found to reach out to. I really believe that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's like prevention is a huge part of advocacy. I mean, I feel like it is like we're an advocate for cancer, but like sun protection, sun safety is like the next thing that is super duper important. And skincare has come a long way, and more of the really important influencers out there and have been talking about SPF and that they wear it. So it is growing. It's catching fire. It is, but it's not anywhere close to where it needs to be. Um, and so also with sunscreen being like all these recalls that we've had and seen, like there's a lot of sunscreen work that is under play, but and I hope that we really get a very stable sunscreen like wipeout where we can just start over, find the right formula that is going to be good and safe for everyone. Because a lot of people think sunscreen causes cancer. I mean, please, with that statement, like there, there's just things that need to be fixed in sunscreen, yes, but SPF is huge protection from all the ultraviolet rays. I mean, people don't understand. Not only is it wrinkles that some people might be worried about only, but skin cancer. I never wore sunscreen when I was growing up. You probably didn't either. Like that was my parents didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
but if we imply it to my kids, they imply it to their friends. Like it just can snowball to something great. And so I hope with the some stations that we could get that going. It would just be amazing.
And just having them there in parks and in cities and accessible helps create those habits. If it's
Yeah,
there, people are more likely to use it
yeah,
because it's removing the barrier of having to go purchase it, go buy it, remember to bring it, pack it, and all of that. It's just there. But
yeah.
I'm really excited to see what happens. You've made such an impact in so many ways, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time to chat with me
Of
today and
course.
share your story. So, for anyone who's listening, wants to hear more about your story, and then also follow the journey of all of the things, the sun stations, your advocacy, and everything, where can they connect with you online and learn more?
Well, I'm on Instagram mostly. It's kind of my big story. I post there like almost every day. And it's just my melanoma world. And I am also on Facebook, not as often, but I do have Facebook. My own website is stayshady.org, um, as well as like most of the platforms, Twitter here and there too, as well. But I just try to find any platform that I can use my advocacy for, and that is my main goal. So my melanoma world is pretty much where you can find me, except for the website, stayshady.org, because that is my motto after all.
Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you.